The title of the message today is Fear and the Storyteller. This is the third in a series that will go on for some time into the next year. I'm certain of it. And they're all based around this book. What's in the way is the way. And what an interesting title. It says a whole lot. What's in the way? That might be the storyteller. And I'm going to say that if we really watch what's going on with that storyteller in us, we'll see that at its root, in all cases, is some kind of fear. Fear of what's going on out there, something outside that makes us feel insecure, that makes us feel in danger, or something inside that we are afraid of. Most of these fears started when we were wee little ones. Psychologists say, on average, 6 years old. I can think of some in myself that began even earlier. And yet, as early and as small as we were, they're still with us. I think if you'll look inside with compassionate curiosity, you'll see that what I am saying is true. But as always, I don't want you to take my word for it, because it only works if you work it. And part of working it in this case is that compassionate curiosity of watching what's going on in your consciousness. And our bodies are going to be key, because our bodies will tell us when we're going into one of these clouds that are a property of the storyteller, where we're trying to get something, this struggle to get, or the struggle to get rid of. If you were here for the very first episode of this series, The Storyteller itself, you'll remember the alien who comes down and watches us and is wondering what's going on, why we're in this beautiful meadow. And yet we're surrounded by clouds, and we keep going after things with the butterfly net, trying to capture stuff. Or with the fly swatter, just swatting that stuff that doesn't even exist to try and get rid of it. It's just part of that cloud. And now we're discovering that at the base of that cloud, at the root of everything that's in that cloud, is some sort of fear. The author of 1 John tells us in chapter 4 and verse 18, reading from the George Lamsa translation of the Aramaic language into English. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear is tormenting. The one who fears is not perfect in love. When we're perfect in love, we're in that meadow. The sun is shining. It's always shining in the meadow. The clouds are coming from that fear. And when there is clouds, when there's this fear, we know we're not in perfect love. That's kind of what he's saying here. But it's the love that dispels the clouds. It's not our struggles of trying to get something that we think is going to make us happy, or get rid of something that we think is going to make us happy. I mean, look, we've been doing it all our lives since we were wee ones, and does it work? Does it? Maybe for a little bit. Maybe for a little bit. But eventually the newness wears off, or something else comes in that we've gotta have, or gotta get rid of. But that meadow, it's already here, and we're already in it. So what we were seeing is the best way to get rid of it is through love. Now I want to read some things from the book. Just so you know that it's not me making this up, because it sounds a whole lot like what I've been talking about since I brought this painting in here, doesn't it? But you know, that's because there's really only one truth. There's just lots of ways to get to it. And so I thought, well, I'm going to explore this idea of the meadow and the storyteller, because it might come through in a different way that helps us see. So I want to read just this really short passage about our childhood fears. What fuels the struggles of the storyteller in our heads? There is one simple word that sums it all up: fear. Most people, most of the time, are caught in a low-grade fear that can flare into anxiousness, insecurity, and even full-blown terror. Let us now get to know fear. Let us get to know fear. Because within this knowing lies the possibility of not being controlled by fear. So there was a teacher, school teacher, who had a dream. And this dream kept recurring to her. She would have this same dream over and over again. I've had dreams that were very similar to this. And in the dream, there was always a monster that was chasing her. And she would run. And just before the monster got her, she would wake up. Heart just beating. Fear. She told this dream to one of her colleagues, and they said, well, you know, sometimes I've heard that if you just turn around and look at the monster, it'll stop the dream from happening. So, that night she had the same dream, and this monster was chasing her. And she turned around and she looked at the monster, and the monster stopped. It didn't move forward. Kind of like a pit bull, you know. If you run from the pit bull, it's after you. But if you turn around, it'll look at you. And what she noticed when the monster stopped was it had pink fingernails. Upon seeing the pink fingernails, she woke up. She never had that dream again. Well, why the pink fingernails? Because there's always something a little funny about the monsters. Something a little just weird, right? Because the monster's not real. Fear, this is quoting again from the book. Fear is so embedded in us, and our fear of looking at it is so great that one of the core functions of our storyteller is to keep us as far away from our fear as possible. The storyteller doesn't want us to come out of that fear, and it certainly doesn't want us to turn around and look at the monster. It's afraid we're going to see those pink fingernails. And what's the answer? It's getting to know our fear. It's that compassionate curiosity. Seeing the fear that's there. Seeing these clouds and what they are in us. And saying, oh, that's okay. I'm not the only one who has this stuff. We all have this stuff. And so I can still love myself. I am good right here, right now, just the way I am. And it's okay. And now I've got a quote I want to read to you. This is from, I don't know if you've heard of a guy named Krishnamurti. He is, I don't know, around the 20s, I think, is when he lived. But when he first started on the scene in theosophy, they thought he was the second coming of Christ. I mean, this guy was such a, endowed with this wisdom. And it comes out he's not so like that anyway. But he did have a lot of good things to say. And this is one of the things he said. It's not that you must be free from fear. The moment you try to free yourself from fear, you create resistance against the fear. Resistance in any form does not end fear. Remember the fly swatter? One must understand the whole nature and structure of fear. That means learn about it, watch it, come directly into contact with it. We are to learn about fear, not how to escape it, not how to resist it. To learn about it. Compassionate curiosity. So as I was studying to get ready for today, I was also reading our lesson for A Course in Miracles. And oh, by the way, something's going on with Lindsay. She wasn't going to be able to make it by 12:30, so we won't be having A Course in Miracles today. Maybe this message will help, though. Because the first line of the lesson is this. No one can escape from illusions unless he looks at them. For not looking is the way they are protected. There is no need to shrink from illusions, for they cannot be dangerous. Okay, so these illusions, what are these illusions in the case of the storyteller and fear? But our fear, the fear is an illusion. It's not really there. These, we live in a modern world. The saber-toothed tiger is extinct and hasn't been around to jump out at us for a long time. But we still carry that in our unconscious. Our, what Charles Fillmore called race consciousness. Our human, that part of consciousness that we all share as human beings. I was like, wow, that really fits. And then, in the second paragraph, I read this. And how else can one dispel illusions except by looking at them directly, without protecting them? Be not afraid, therefore, for what you will be looking at is the source of fear. And you are beginning to learn that fear is not real. How can there be any fear in God? Because God is love. We just saw that fear doesn't get along with love. They can't happen at the same time. And so all of these fears are just an illusion. It's something. I'm not saying they're not real, because they really affect us. But they don't have power over us when we shine the light of love on them. We get to know them. We get in contact with them. We feel what it's like. Gosh, it's so important to feel what it's like in our body when we're in that state. Because that can be our trigger to know that we're going into fear. We can become aware of our conscious state by our body state. Once we get to know these fears. One more quote to share with you, and then we'll wrap up. This one's from the Bible, from the Gospel according to Matthew. It's part of the Sermon on the Mount. Chapter 6, verse 22 and 23. The eye, our perception, the eye is the lamp of the body. If, therefore, your eye is bright, your whole body is also lighted. But if your eye is diseased, your whole body will be dark. If, therefore, the light that is in you is darkness, how much greater will be your darkness. So how is that related to fear and the storyteller? What is the darkness here? What is this unhealthy eye? That's seeing the clouds. That's seeing from this place of fear. Seeing the fear, seeing the results of the fear, reacting to that fear, instead of responding from love. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eye is bright, if you are seeing with a right vision, if you are perceiving from the place of the meadow, your whole body is lighted, full, flowing life energy. That prayer for protection, it is real, and it really works. If you don't know it by heart from saying it every Sunday, it is in the bulletin. There's plenty of those still back there if you want one. And that daily word today, boom. I didn't know that was going to be the daily word when this topic ended up being on today's date. In fact, this talk was supposed to be given the day Reverend Carol was here. But she came to town, and I wanted to hear her speak, and I wanted everyone to hear her speak. Anyhow, it's just how things work out on a spiritual path. There are no coincidences. There are none. Just like that lesson for Course in Miracles aligned so perfectly with fear and the storyteller. Fear and the storyteller.